Today we are going to do something very different. Gaurav and I are going to sit together and we are going to be designing Google Calendar. We are going to be doing low level design. So this is not scripted. We have not decided something from beforehand, and this is not a mock interview also. It's not like I am the candidate or he is the candidate. We are just sitting together and brainstorming and making you also think together. Before we begin the discussion, here's a reminder that I have started a new channel, Code from Scratch, for beginners of DSA. There I'm picking concepts one by one. I'm starting from basic level questions, moving to medium to hard level questions. I've already done this for binary search and helped many students. We were consistent together, and now these students are able to solve any binary search question. We are planning to do the same for recursion. So if you're interested, if you're a beginner of DSA, please do consider subscribing, because I'm working extremely hard creating content for both the channels, and I have now structured this so well, because on this channel mock interviews and system design discussions will continue, but on that channel it will be like basic concepts for beginners of DSA. So I really need your support to motivate me create more and more content. Not going to say more. The link is in the description. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, today we are going to try to design Google Calendar at its low level. The idea of this is to understand how you can write code so that you can book things for a particular range, and also see where you can use like known design patterns to solve new problems. So this is a totally new problem for me, which is designing Google Calendar. It's also a new problem for Kirti, and we are going to use well-known design patterns that can be applied for actually solving this problem. This unknown problem will be solved using known solutions rather.
Right. Thank you so much for doing this, Gaurav. Let's get started with the requirements about what all things will we be discussing today.
Okay, so if I open Google Calendar right now, the most common use case for me personally is to just book an event or let's say book a slot, right? This itself can have multiple things going for it. One of the things is, let's say 1.1 is there is a time range in which we can book this event. So there's a start time and an end time. The other thing is I can actually invite people to this meeting. So 1.2 would be invite meeting guests, right? What else? It can have a description. This description is any text, so it's nothing special. It can also have a Google Meet link.
Actually, there can be a title also along with the description. Sometimes title and description is different.
Okay, so let's add that. That's a useful thing. Title may be something that you want to show outside. Description is only after you click inside. Is there anything else that I can see which is important? Yeah, there are different colors of the events, but this may not be very important. This is just a thing.
Actually, one thing that is there, so you're saying book a slot. Now, a slot could be a meeting slot, it could be a reminder, it could also be like a birthday event or an anniversary event, or sometimes it could be also recurring. So
yes, this is important. So book a, let me clarify, book a meet should be like a block. What do we call that thing which is like a booking? So maybe I should just call it a
book an event.
Yeah, book an event. What would you call the all-day reminder? Is it just a type of an event which is an all-day reminder?
Yeah.
But okay, we can't have guests in that, I think. I never tried it. Time range also over
Yes.
there becomes okay. So let me just take that separately, because there are a few things which are different in that, and let me see if I can then converge them together. Book reminders, or rather set reminders will be right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's also this thing which is the notification. Like give me a notification 1 hour before by email, 3 hours before by Android thing. So notification settings is one thing. Okay, I think this pretty much sums up an event in Google Calendar.
There's also one more thing that I have seen, at least in Gmail or Outlook, that should the guests reply or not? Like when you send an invitation, do they have to reply or not?
That's right.
Like sometimes it's important. There's a label or something that you have to reply.
That's actually a very important point here. So if you're inviting guests, then guest let's say answers or status. So I'll just call it RSVP. I think is some people call it like.
One is their status, one is like every guest status, and another point is it important for, is it like necessary for the guest to reply or not? So there are two levels to it.
Oh.
One is that yeah, they have to reply, and the other thing is that their status, that they have accepted or not.
Okay, reply.
Necessary, basically.
Okay. Call it compulsory is a flag.
Right.
Okay. I've never seen this, but this seems interesting. Maybe we can, I can get a little more context around this. Okay. This is booking an event. We can also cancel a calendar event.
Right.
This happens only on happy occasions. We can also update an event.
Yes. So this is essentially becoming CRUD. So we created an event. We can also read events, update
Events. Yeah, and we can read events like you said. Yeah, so we can see events.
That in fact is the most important part of a calendar, because the second you open the calendar, you will see all the events in a date range, say in a month or a week.
So view all events in a date range. The important thing here is that we are not looking at how we are going to represent these on the front end. We are just looking at how these things will be stored in the back end. When we are booking an event and we want to invite guests, I can see something like 1.2.1. You need to have permission to invite, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, it's getting a little complex. We can see events in a date range. We can also share calendar actually.
Yes. So another point was that whether others can see the event or not. Is it like personal that only you can see, or when others see your calendar, they can also see it or not?
Okay, so shared events should be visible. Now, this is out of not just your events which you're a part of, but also let's say Kirti shares her calendar with me, so I'll be able to see the events that she's participating in, and I'll probably not book at the same time because she's busy that time. So that's the idea. Okay.
Actually, while booking, so if you have to think in more complex direction, maybe we can consider these points later, but also to design like a proper full-flexed calendar, we'll also have to consider things like sometimes it is possible to send an invite overriding the event. Like maybe there is like a common event happening across company, but I still want to, book an event. I can still do it. Like, is it like, can you still book an event or not? That setting should also be there.
Okay. So we are seeing that there's a.
But maybe we can consider that later. Let's discuss the basic shared events first, and then we can do that later.
Okay, let's just put that so that we can remember it. Event settings might be another thing, like how important is it, priority. I haven't actually used this in Google Calendar, but I just noted down, maybe this is a high priority event. Maybe you cannot have lower priority events come in over here, overriding this. So let's see if we can get to this. Now, what I would like to do is I would actually start, instead of thinking of the event, I would actually start liking to think of what are the things that a customer or a person can do here. So let's say there is a person, a user, they can book an event, they can see events, they can cancel an event, they can update an event, and an event has settings. So this is not up to them. So there's 4 things that they can do.
Which is basically CRUD.
Yeah, but the reason I'm not thinking about CRUD right now is because if you think of an event, yes, then you can create an event, delete an event, everything. But what are the things that a user can do will probably give you, will give the user actions. Like a user will have book event as an action that they can do.
Okay.
Right, and then this is going to actually return an event. You send the details here in this function and you can get an event in hand. Now you can cancel an event over there. Again, you pass the ID, and then you get nothing. You get a void for cancellation.
Right.
Okay. What else? Update. I guess the ID and the parameters. So anything which is over here, which
What
is
needs to be updated?
yes. So everything which exists already will stay. Anything which needs to be updated is going to be updated using these parameters. We might have some validation which makes sure that these parameters, invite Kirti and invite Kirti. So that becomes like a redundant parameter. Maybe you won't allow it. Maybe you will just combine them together. We'll have to see that. What else?
Also, we should probably consider having an event type, because that might be a thing, right? Is it a meeting? Is it a reminder? Is it
Do we want to
maybe-
go for reminders right now? I'm just wondering because reminders are very specific, right? You have them for the whole day, or do you have them for a week or something also? I'm not sure. I haven't set too many reminders in my.
even I don't set reminders. But when we think about it, actually, one is the day reminder. One I think is time wise reminder also. But I think let's leave reminders for now. So in this so today we are going to be focusing on meetings. Is that so?
Yeah. Let's start with meetings. Actually, that's a very important point. There are some things which are recurring meetings. Okay.
Right.
So maybe 1.0 is recurring meetings. My God, there's a lot of requirements, and I'm sorry the handwriting is bad, but okay. Let's try to
It's
actually
much
cut
better.
down on the things that we are going to do because
Yes.
this is pretty big.
Yes.
What are the critical things that we want to do?
Right. I think recurring meetings is an important point. I think we should give the most priority to seeing events to be able to read the events properly. Second is in book an event, we should definitely have title, description, meet link, time range. Maybe notification we can see later, not in the first
Got it.
time itself, right? We can see notification later. Guest answers also, maybe we can come to that later after designing the initial
Reply
thing.
compulsory is later.
Yes.
So okay, canceling an event we'll allow.
Yes.
Update an event we'll allow. This is easy. Event settings, like you said, we can look at it later.
Yes.
Meet link, I think we can skip. Description, I guess title can be put in description, so to speak. Color, notification settings, guest answers, like you said, is not so important. So let's just take these three. And again, permissions.
range.
Permissions is something that we may not want to look into. So I'll just take these three. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing else, right? We don't want to get into any other complexities. The important thing to remember is that, of course, notification settings becomes it becomes complex in itself because it becomes a rule engine kind of thing that you have
Right.
stuff happening. Okay, so
We can probably look at these things later if we have time, but for now, let's get started with these.
right. So let's start with seeing events. Let me just zoom out and go into the next part. So how do we go about doing this? We're seeing that all of this is related to users. There are two major parts of the system. One of them is a user and the other is a event. So events are related to users and users are related to events. I'm just
Right.
writing under the block that we have over here. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
now let's say there are users and there are events. A user can book an event. Okay. Firstly, okay. So if they book an event, what do they need? What does a user need? They need an ID, a user ID. Right. What does an event need? An event needs an event ID. It also needs start time, needs end time.
Yep.
Okay. Recurring events,
So-
yeah.
I also added the 3 more types: cancel, update, and delete.
Makes sense.
Oh, cancel and delete should be same.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you can make cancel read maybe delete ki jagah.
Yeah.
Your start time and an end time, and you also have some sort of a expression which tells you when is the next event. Is that it? How are we going to show recurring events? And if it is recurring, at what frequency? So is it?
At what frequency and how many? Like till when should it be?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe recurrence. I'll just write this neatly because
Recurrence frequency and the number of recurrence should be enough, I think.
yes. So let me just write that as a.
The rest calculation can be done on the front end itself. We just need to tell that okay.
Right. Okay, recurring frequency. You also need the recurring end time. Okay. Apart from this stuff, what do we need? An event, like, let's go back to the requirements. Okay, event can be has a set of guests. Okay, so guest list. We also need a time range, that's taken care of. Description. Okay, description is important. I'll just add description here, and finally I'll add the thing which is probably going to be most interesting, which is guest list.
Yeah, it should be basically a list of users.
Right. So now if we have this, I'll just note down the types also. This is, let's say, string. I'll take a hash of the user's details. Start time is date. End time is date. Recurring frequency. Firstly, is this taking care of our requirements? I'll just note down the requirements first. Can I see these events? Yes, of course. Like you have written over here very clearly. Can I read them? Yes. Can I update these things? Yeah. Deletion, booking, and is there anything else? Recurring event? Yeah. That's it. That's pretty much it. Okay.
Actually, for guest list, I was thinking, so just thinking out loud. So guest list, as soon as when we create an event, by default, the user who is creating will be added to the guest list.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. List of,
So they like guest list should never be empty. It will have at least one user who will be the person creating. Maybe they can be a label or something that who created this particular event. Creator.
how about we have a creator user
Yes.
and a guest list separate list. So there are no guests sometimes,
Right.
but you can also have this.
That's a way to
That's a good
like
yeah.
to keep things differently. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I miss that. I miss the creator thing because permissions is also a thing in an event. In fact, permissions is something I think I missed in an event. You know, who can join and who can't. So
Who can we invite and who can't we invite? That is also one thing.
right. So maybe we can get to that also if we have the time. Let's do that. It'll be in event settings, I think.
Correct.
Okay, so recurring end time. This is just a date, but this frequency looks like a cron to me. What do you think? A cron expression or some sort of an enum, because people can select that daily at 9 p.m. So tomorrow it might be
I was
monthly.
thinking,
Yeah, sure.
Instead of like you have written recurring end time, so that can actually become a bit confusing. So instead of that, if we can have the number of times stored in our DB instead of storing the end time, that means the number of times the event will occur. Like so, recurring there will be one start range, there will be one end range. Like if you're starting from today, instead of storing like when it should end, we can just store the number of times it should occur. That
Number
will
of
be
times?
easier. Don't
Okay.
you think so?
Yeah, it's a good idea. Look, if you say I want this reminder daily at 7 a.m. and then you say no, just make it on weekdays, then number of times will be a little.
Yeah, you'll have to do the calculation. Yeah.
So maybe end time will be better, but end time. What if there is no end time? Like if there is no end time, then what do we do? Do this forever.
There should be an end time, right?
There should be an end time. So we'll force the user saying that listen, 10 years down the line anyway you will have an end time definitely. So let's have a pakka end time. Okay.
Yeah.
What about recurring frequency? What do you think about this? How are you going to express this? I'm thinking.
So I was thinking maybe we can have an enum based on like hourly, weekly, monthly, yearly.
No, how about the 3 p.m. on February Sundays, first Sunday of
Monthly.
February. Yeah,
Monthly.
yeah, but I want it on the first Sunday of every month.
Is there an option to do something like that?
In calendar, it is there.
Monthly, every first Sunday.
Yeah, I do that.
That's
We have like interview ready Zoom calls every first Sunday of a month. So they the cron expression, actually internally they must be using cron, because using that you can actually tell them. I think leap year and all that is also taken care of to some extent. You can say every second. You can say minute, second, day, month, and I think year is also there. There's six things that you can do with cron.
Every first Sunday, doesn't that become like monthly thing?
No. So today's first Sunday is let's say 5th. Next month it will be 1st of that month.
Okay, so monthly it can be a day monthly or a date monthly. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Although this thing has been done for a while. Like for example, like tell me on the 3rd of February, 3rd Sunday of the February, or the 4th Sunday of a February, and maybe you won't get a 4th Sunday. Is that possible? Or a 5th Sunday of a February. Sometimes there are 5 Sundays in February. Sometimes they're not. So
Actually, along with that, we'll also have to take care 10th of every month. So both the cases we have to take care.
Yeah, 10th of every month is easy. That is like every month 10th. Yeah, but it's not like just doing 30 days more.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
That's what I meant.
So frequency, if you're seeing, I think a cron expression will be best.
Alright.
Right. End date. Okay, let's take a cron expression. I'm actually wondering how are we going to represent this in the front end. But I don't think we need to, do we? If you take this event and you give it to the front end, then are they going to figure out the start time? Oh, okay. When does this event start occurring? Is that also a thing?
Whenever we have created it.
Okay,
But it can also be possible that I want to start it from like after 2 months or after a month.
Right.
So there should be since we are having a recurring end time, we should also have a recurring start time.
Correct.
We should have a recurring start time.
Another thing is what happens with the next event. Like when you create an event, let's say let me draw this out. Let's say we create an event.
Gaurav, actually, are we getting too much into recurrence? Let's do the first thing first. Like we haven't even discussed what all will be part of user.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we do that first?
Okay, we can do that.
So that, because I know that recurrence is an important topic, but we should at least decide the basics first and then get to the details.
Okay, that makes sense, of course. So what do we do? Okay.
User class will have what also? This was event class. Maybe we can add recurring start time and more details.
User class, seems just like ID, right? Do we need a name maybe?
It should also have a list of events, no, to be able to read for a particular user.
Okay.
This is actually going to work both the ways. Like event, which all users are there, and for a user, which all events are there.
Okay. We can derive it from this, but we want to keep it here. Is that it?
We can derive, but since we discussed earlier, the most common thing that happens in a calendar is when a user opens, the user can see his or her entire calendar, like for a date range. Since this is going to be the most common operation, it makes sense to optimize it and keep it on the user level. Don't you think so?
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So, okay,
because otherwise we'll have to like go through all the events to again and again find per user, which is not at all efficient.
Yeah, and especially if you're in the guest list. Okay, so that's a very good point. I'll just note that down. we have ID, we have list of events. What else do we have? We have the name of the user. I don't think there's anything else, right? What were the other things that a user could do? They could cancel an event. They could update. It's not so much about users, I guess. They can invite guests, but that is again dealing with the event only. At any point when we're clicking in the UI, I'm wondering whether we go and tell other people that, hey, I'm directly interacting with people. I think in Google Calendar we never do that.
No.
But we can share our events with someone else.
Yeah.
So
But it's fine to, since we were taking care about notifications and sharing events later, I think it's fine. We can
sure.
let this much
Okay.
be.
So this should be enough, right? This is pretty much the two simple events that we have.
Right.
Okay. Now let's yeah, sure.
Sorry, I was thinking, should we are these also classes? Like if we think from class diagram perspective, is this a user class and an event class? Do we need any other classes?
No, I don't think we'll need. I can't see at the moment a need for another class. We might need some sort of a manager. We might need. So on the plain objects is this.
Yeah.
Everything else will probably be around the logic. So this is what I can see right now. What are the things that a user can do? They can book event. They can cancel event. They can add or update event, which is add guests, add description, everything.
Update event basically.
Okay. What else would they like to do? They have, like you have mentioned, book event. Okay, so that takes care of this.
Get events
Okay.
for date range.
Okay, this is, then you have a get event, and then we have a range, right? A date range.
Yes. So in these APIs, it would make sense to really write there also that okay, what are the things that we are supposed to do? Yeah. Send types actually, parameters as well.
Okay, so I'm passing in a date range over here. So start time and an end time. Give me all the events in this date range for this user.
Actually, when we do book event, are we going to create an entire event object and send it?
We could create an event object, or we could, we should.
I'm thinking, when will event ID be created? Will it be created within the book event and we'll be returning the book ID from the book event? Or when we pass the event itself, event ID would have been created? Like, will it be created? Do you understand my question?
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like you're saying, is it a request ID or is it an event ID? Like, do you?
Yes.
So if you pass it to the event manager or whichever class we pass it to, whoever is handling making events, factory, whatever, are they going to pass us a ID, or are we going to tell them that this is the event ID that you have to create it with? I think let the backend actually create the ID and send it back as a response. We can use this to track our events on the front end. We know that the backend has created an event with this ID. That is one benefit. Yeah. We might keep a request ID with ourselves. So maybe request ID containing all the event details. Once it is persisted, then we get a event ID.
Right. So when the user sends, the user will send all the data, right? All the data as it is, maybe in a class, and we return the event ID.
I guess they can send it in the event on the client side. An event does not need an ID. It's not compulsory to have an ID. You create it and then you send it. This is the request, and the response that you get is the event ID. In the backend, it has to have an ID. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that will mean that an event, like from the front end, from the user's perspective, an event can exist without an ID. That should not happen, right? Like, whenever an event is created, an ID should be created by itself. Don't you think so?
Well, yes, you can. This is an interesting question. an event is created, nobody should be able to
And-
access that event. You send it over the wire, only for the factory, or only for actually persisting it. You don't keep it anywhere else. So when you're saying book event, that's the only time when this event is sent. You will not cache this, you will not do anything with this event. When you get a response, you can get this full data from the server, which will be having the ID also. And that will always, every event over there will have an ID.
Right.
That's one option. Any other options, Kirti, that would be better?
No, it does make sense. My only concern was, alright, fine. It's fine. I think it's not such a major issue.
Okay.
So while cancelling the event, we'll send the event ID because at that time we'll have the event ID, right?
Yeah.
Right. Even while updating, we will send the ID and what all things we have to update basically.
Yeah, we could send this event object itself with an ID. So what will happen is maybe the client has an event which does not have an ID. Is that going to make sense? No, not really. So update event.
That is why I was saying that while booking also maybe, but client should not be able to create the ID, right? So only while booking event will exist without ID. Rest all the time event will have an ID. So while update also event will have an ID. So,
Okay. Let's say we send an update event with the full object of event. Event details is one way to do this, but I don't want a mapping like event has event details and event details has everything about the event. Then it becomes a two-layer thing. So
yeah.
for now, let's just assume that this one has an ID and this one does not have an ID.
Yep.
Get events in the start time and end time that we have. This is just date and date. It returns a list of events. Update event returns nothing. I mean, it returns a 200 OK if it works. Otherwise, it returns HTTP codes basically.
Right.
Cancel event returns again nothing. Just returns a status. Book event is going to return the ID. Okay. This part is simple for the user. As for the event, is there anything that the event can do? Not really, right? No. Okay. Guest list of. Okay. Now I just want to come back to this recurring frequency thing before we forget this point.
Yep.
When we have an event and we have another event which is a recurrence, like 1 week later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do we do with these events 1 week later again? Do they also have a recurring frequency? Do they also have a recurring end time? Do we just copy it onto this?
And even the ID, does the ID change or does the ID remain same? Even that is one.
The interesting part, like you said, is if you are going to update this event, then we need a different ID, right? Okay, and if you update this event, all recurring events also have to be updated.
Actually, there is an option to update just one event and not all this. So when you update an event, you can go like maybe invite a guest or change the time of a particular event, and you want to change for that only one event and not for all the events.
Right.
So,
Now, what happens? Okay, here's another question. You go and update this event, right? So let's say you make this something else. Does it lose this link? Because now if I go and update this event, just this one, and I say update all recurring events, should this be included or should it not be included? I don't think it should be included. It has changed.
it has
Okay,
changed.
so roughly, Kirti, would you agree that if you have, let's say, events recurring and you go and modify an event, it no longer becomes, it loses the link for this list? I mean, if you
It
just update this,
loses the-
yeah, sorry.
But we can't like remove it. Like it is, yeah, it loses the link. But do we really deal with it like that only? Like, do we like create a separate event? Like we'll just copy the event, create a new event. Like create a new event with this event, like duplicating event and creating a new ID basically for that.
Okay.
Do we do that? Sometimes that is also possible, right? We duplicate the events.
Right. If you duplicate the event, what happens to the older event?
Older remains same, just new one is created with the new event ID, and rest everything will remain same.
So that event is like, it's still active, or what is it? Let's say you came here and you said that all the descriptions here are A, and then we come over here and we say, okay, no, change this description to B. We say, should we do this for the rest of the events? And we are like, no, we don't want it to change for the rest of the events, just for this day. There's some special day over here. So, or we want to cancel this event, just cancel this particular event. Now what happens?
Then this becomes separate from the list, right? As you were saying.
Okay,
And
so
then this will have a separate ID and all the others will have one ID. Or all of them should have different IDs. What do you think?
I think all of them can have different IDs. That would be better.
The way ID is generated can also differ. Maybe for recurring, we can have like a different way to generate the IDs, and for the non-recurring events, we can have different way to generate the IDs.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Create a lot of events. Okay.
Like maybe like first two digits tell that okay, is it a recurring event or not? If it is recurring, then the second 2 or 3 digits tell that okay.
We can keep a flag, no? Recurring frequency, recurring end time.
And recurring start time that we have not added.
Yeah, start time is an interesting thing. I'm starting to feel that somewhere along the line we'll hit some snag. It will get really complex. If you have a recurring frequency, should we have a separate object saying that these events are recurring? So you have a set of events, and all of those events like are part of a set recurrence, which defines start time, end time, everything. And if you update the event specifically in that recurrence, then we remove it from this recurrence relation. Is that going to help, or is that useless?
Okay, first thing, when we create a recurring event, are we going to like treat each event separately, or are we going to treat one like will it be like one event or different events?
They should be different events.
So suppose someone is not putting the end time, say 10 years down the line. Suppose it's going to happen every week till 10 years. So are we going to create that many events? Isn't it like wastage of data?
Yeah. You can also say that I will only allow you to create events up to some
One
number.
year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or at a very high frequency, I'll not allow you to create more than, because I've created an event 50 years in the future also. So
Really?
yeah, Google allows that. I don't know if they allow recurring events up to 50 years, especially if it's happening every day, let's say every 3 hours. Let's actually notice how much that is. So if you have 50 years into 365 days into, let's say 3, and then you have, let's say 1 billion users.
Actually, before starting the meeting, I just saw how many people use Google Calendar. So it's 500 million. So if we design for 1 billion and 5 events on average per person, so that is the number of events that are being created. Okay, I know we are not talking about high level design, but still giving an idea.
You're right. Capacity, like you want to see whether they fit in memory. So
Yes.
this part is like 1000. This part is 10 raised to power 9. We are at 10 raised to power 12 into 50. So this isn't that many events. 50 trillion events.
Yeah.
Each event will be like a few. Won't even be in KB. It will be in a few bytes. So 100 bytes.
50 trillion in a year. I think it's fine.
Yeah, this is like, no, actually 50 trillion events. It's a lot of events. This is like everyone going crazy in the world. Everyone saying, I want a recurring event which goes for the next 50 years and also occurs every 3 hours. So this is nothing. Like this is a few petabytes. But this is the entire of Google Calendar. Okay, that's a lot of data actually, no? 100 will make you 5.
I think you are like, this is like split personality. This is not a lot of data. This is a lot of data. This is not a lot of data.
I'm just starting to wonder, is it practical to Yeah, we can of course split it according to user. So each user has very less data. It's manageable. It's not that big a deal. Also, you can always ban users if they are spamming your website.
Yeah.
Okay, coming back to the recurring relation, this seems pretty complex. Do you think we should go for the rest of the things first and then look at recurring events? Maybe it will simplify.
But don't you think like we would have to like modify our class too much to fit in recurring events?
Yeah, we might have to. So let's note our options down. I think in terms
Yeah.
of recurring events, what are the things we can do?
Yeah.
One would be, just writing this next event, one would be treat every event separately. Okay. Everything has a separate ID, a recurring frequency, a recurring end time, and so on. Okay.
I think this is the like for now. I can feel that this is the best way to go about it. Because what will happen, say if we want to update, like if we want to cancel the rest of the events, we can just cancel because we have separate events. We can just cancel a few or update a few. Let's design according to this, and then we'll see if it is possible. We'll come back to recurrence, but let's design the rest of it accordingly. That okay, we are going to keep each event separately.
You also notice that Google Calendar actually allows you only to update the future events, not the past events. So if
Obviously, yeah.
you cannot go there and say that event number 35, change that, and because of that change make 34 also change. They only allow
Yeah.
you to change the events from 36 onwards, 35 and so on. So
Yeah, so for them also it's somehow different only. Plus each event has sort of I think event status. Has it already occurred? Like when is it going to occur? I guess we don't have to keep that. That depends on like the time when it is occurring and the present time. But still, like
yeah, we
they
can
would
keep
be
that. Yeah, if you like. We can keep that. So I'll just note that down. Status. Is the event over or not? Okay. Treat every event separately. This seems good. I think we should also have some sort of a list. So when we have a recurring relation, all we need to do is we need to generate a list and store those events. And also, I mean, every event is separate. So it has its own ID, it has its own recurring frequency. Or maybe instead of recurring frequency, we can say next event. Yeah. So I don't need, Kirti, here's the idea. What if I remove recurring end time and recurring frequency? Okay, just deleted this by mistake. I wrote it again. We have recurring frequency and recurring end time, right? Instead of that, can we change this? Can we make it a list? A list with a next pointer. So instead of recurring frequency, I'm just cancelling this, and recurring end time, I'm cancelling that. When people say, please book recurring events, they send a book events. All right, they send an event, and they can also send a recurring frequency here and a recurring end time. This simplifies the booking a little bit, because now what happens is, instead of the event storing all this stuff, we basically have the event which is a little easier to read. It's just end time, start time, ID, list of users who are coming, and a description, and a next pointer.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Firstly, like till now, what I was thinking, like storing the events, like I know again we are talking about low level design, but again storing in a DB would have been much easier. Like if they wouldn't have been connected, list of events become a bit more complex storing in DB. Secondly, when we have like list of events, as you said, we are going to store them like next event occurring. Now, when the user does get events or something like that, we still want the event to be able to tell that okay, this is part of recurring event. So we will need that information to be shown, at least to be returned to the user. So we need that information, right? We can't just delete, like not have that information.
Right. So the information of is this a recurring event is shown in the next ID. So if you have, let's say, a few events, right? Event ID 12 points to event.
But when you go to the event details in the front end, like user should be able to see, okay, what is the frequency and what is the end time.
Oh yes.
You can store it like list of events, but you will still have to store recurring frequency and end time for sure for the user to be able to see it.
Yeah, this occurs every 3 days. Is that something that users are able to see?
Yes.
Okay. So recurring frequency and recurring end time is something we should have, but we don't really use it. Is that going to make sense?
Yeah, we are going to use it to return it basically.
Okay. So we have a recurring. That's right. We have a recurring end time. We have a recurring frequency also, which tells a user how often does this occur and till what date is this event going to be there. If people change this, what happens? I guess the next ID should also change its own frequency and the end time, and then the remaining event should also change.
Now let's start actually thinking from the class perspective how we are going to really create the event, how the event creation. Let's see how our APIs are going to work now. Like let's come back to that.
Okay. Let me just wrap up this recurring frequency thingy, and we are good.
Okay.
So let's try to take this next ID for every event. From what I'm seeing, the events coming after it will be affected if an event is being changed.
Right.
So okay, let's go ahead. Let's try to write some code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's first discuss which pattern are we going to use for all the 4 APIs that we have to do. Like how are we going to really write the code?
Okay. So sometimes booking the event just needs event details. So and even there, like event details is difficult to populate. Like when you're creating event details, also you're setting like 6 or 7 things. So set guest list, set guest, and in the guest list also you're setting 1 person, 2 person, 3 people. So it's going to be probably a very big. Every time you're creating an event, you're writing a lot of code. Okay.
Actually, I had 2 things to say over here. One is because right now we are considering only meetings. We can easily make this happen using decorator or builder. Why decorator? Because an event is created and then we keep adding like, okay, these are the configurations that we want to keep adding, right? That is one way to go about it. Builder, because there's too many configurations and the object is very complex. So we could use builder design pattern. But tomorrow, like we want our class to be extendable. Right now we are thinking of only meetings. So tomorrow we have to also create things like reminders and stuff. So for that, there should be like an event type or something like that, and there should be factory to like create which sort of event are we talking about.
Okay.
So like I'm telling you the pros and cons of the design patterns that we can use. So like, do you agree with me or do you have any different approach?
I think builder. Yeah, you're right. We probably a builder here will be useful if you have a event, so a new event dot, then you say give me the meet link, so the link is going to be passed in over here.
Right. We actually haven't added the link in the event, but yeah.
That's like you said, like there's quite a few things. You can have a description also, which we have added, and over here you pass in some string or some text, and then like this, I mean, things keep going forward.
Right.
They can just do a dot, give the method name, pass in the parameter here, and the event is created. So if you don't have a recurring frequency, you don't need to actually say recurring frequency here.
Yeah.
So it's easy to create this event with the builder pattern. Okay, that's one good thing to remember. What else? What are the other common problems that we are seeing here? We can, you also mentioned factory. So why would you like to have a factory? Because you want different types of events being created? Is that the thing? Like, what are we trying to create which we want to abstract out? Let a factory
See,
create it
right
for us.
now, right now, since we're creating just meeting type events, I think it's fine to go ahead with it. But tomorrow, if we want to create another event type, say reminder, we will have to like use factory like there too. But I think for now, it's okay to skip that. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, right. A factory. Okay. Yeah, like instead of us saying new event, let the factory have the builder pattern inside it. But what are you going to pass to the factory? You're going to pass in all the parameters?
We're going to pass in that factory. This is the event type that I want to create. Uh, Now reminder or that. Now depending on that factory is going to create. Now because reminder as well as a meeting will have some common things, right, to it. There will be a list of users who need to be reminded. There will be a description. There will be a title. There will be a start time. There will be an end time. There will be an ID. And reminders can also be recurring. So all the recurring things will also be there.
What will the factory, what is the signature going to look like? Like new factory dot.
See, maybe under event they can be of two times. Meeting, reminder. Now, when we can tell a factory that create an event. Now, it could be either returning me a meeting or returning me a reminder like that. That's what I
Okay,
mean.
okay. But in the factory, let's say get event or make event, what are you going to pass here?
All the event details, that's what I was saying, that because the details are very common for both reminder as well as for meeting.
Okay.
So we can just pass in the details. Now factory is going to create inside that, okay.
Would you,
whether you-
this is the set of details, is it? Will you be passing this event details dot link dot description dot frequency, recurring frequency? Is that what you're going to pass inside the factory?
Hmm.
Okay, and then you're going to do a comma type, is it?
Hmm.
So, okay, that can be done. Or would you prefer a dot type here, which is going to say reminder type or which type?
Now that is an interesting thing. Is type a configuration? Because if we do that, type becomes essentially a parameter of an event and not the other way around. Like earlier, I was thinking that event and then class meeting and class reminder inheriting from event. But now what we are saying is that type becomes a property of an event.
Yeah.
So what do you think is better, to keep an event class separately and meeting and reminder classes inheriting from event, or keeping it as a property?
I think the question will be, is a reminder an event? Yes. Does an event have a type reminder? I think a reminder is an event. That's what I'm thinking of. Like, does an animal have teeth? Yes. But can an animal chew? That would be yeah. So that becomes inheritance. So it kind of depends on how you think of it. Does animal have? So then, what is this type doing? How does it help? Its behaviors change because of the type.
Yes.
Okay.
Because meeting will have like properties like link, like Zoom link and stuff. But reminders won't have that.
Okay.
So I
Let's go
think
for
inheritance will make more sense than having property like inside.
Yeah.
Because there will be some properties specific for meeting and not for reminder. And there will be some properties specific for reminder and not for meeting.
Okay. So let's do that. The factory returns you a type reminder, or it returns
You
you a
agree,
type.
right? Like
I think overall the behaviors change, and the factory decides on how to make this. Yeah, maybe that's interesting. Reminder and an event seems interesting. Like what we are doing, or should a builder handle this? When you do all this and then you say dot build, That time it checks the type of the event and then it creates and gives you something in hand.
Have you ever used a factory and a builder together? I've never used it together.
No, I have also not used it together. I have a feeling that if you say event builder dot link dot description dot recurring frequency dot type and then click dot build, like if you type that dot build, then it will return you of that type event.
I think factory is just overkilling. I think builder itself can take care of it.
Yeah, you're right about the inheritance part. Absolutely. Different types of events exist in reminders and meetings. But I guess factory is not necessary. This will directly give you the event in hand.
Right.
The builder. Okay. This is one thing that we can focus on. What else? We have booking events. That it was a complex thing. Canceling events is, I think, quite easy.
Basic, yeah.
Update events is again seems very easy.
Because we're using builder, it will be very easy.
Right. And we'll pass an ID. Get events. Now, how do we get events? We have start time and we have end time. So an index in the database would be nice. And if we map it to an index in like basically an ability to binary search in memory, then we just need a sorted set or some sort of a sorted collection.
Sorted on the basis of
On time.
creation ID?
Yeah, on creation time. Yeah. Creation time, start time, I think.
Start time, not creation time, right?
Yeah.
Also, we never talked about creation time. Should we have creation time?
Creation time is important, yes. Although
We
it's more for
never
debugging
talked
and
about
logging purposes, I don't really see anybody doing anything with creation time.
I'm not sure whether that is mentioned on Google Calendar or not. That when was the event created?
I don't think so, yeah. But you can have it just in case, creation time is a very important thing. Like many people have ID and creation time like standard in all objects that they ever create.
Right.
But okay, let's say we have like you said, let's sort it by start time and then the event. So there's a tree set or a tree map that we have. Tree set will be better. It's just events which are comparable by their start time are being stored here.
Right.
You will see similar things in Golang also, and you'll see similar things in C++ also. So what does this do? This is a tree set of events. If you want a set,
Where is the tree set stored?
so it will be in
So there will be an event manager which will be taking care of this, right?
yeah. In fact, if you don't have it in memory, that's okay. You can go to your database and you have an index on start times, so you can get all those events.
I have another question. So this tree set that we are storing, so there's going to be one event manager which is going to store the tree set. Now, shouldn't it be per user basis, because the request is going to come per user? So it's going to become much faster if we index on the basis of user and time.
Yeah.
So now when we are going to store it, now suppose there are like 7 people attending a meet. So do we add that 7 times for every user, or do we not do that?
We should. We can add the event IDs, which is, so for example, if this is, let's say, a tree set of events per user, right? That's a really good idea. So for a user, so there's a mapping now for a user to tree set mapping.
Yeah.
This is on the manager side of things. We'll simplify this object. This is a really complex object. We can simplify it. But like you said, if there's one user who has these 3 events, and there is another user who has these 3 events, like they're 2 in common, then do we have copies or do we point to the same event? I think we can have this person having the IDs. Let's say this is 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So for this user specifically, they have the ID stored 2, 4, 3. And for this user, again, they have the ID stored 1, 2, 3. So this simplifies. I mean, you don't need to store the details of the event. You just need to store the ID in this event. So it's not going to store the events, actually. It's just going to store the ID.
Mm-hmm. Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So 123 238. So you're going to store the event ID, which will essentially map to that. Like
Yeah, user ID to event ID mapping, like a set of events that.
but when say a user opens the calendar and says that okay, I want all the events for this date range.
Yeah.
You what okay we'll have to do, we'll have to go through this map for this user ID, get this event. Now for that event ID again we'll have to make another call, get the event, right?
Yeah, here's the interesting thing. What if you have thousands of events in that time?
Right.
I'm sorry, I actually missed your question. For this user, yes, I came to this user, this map, yes, then.
Then for that user, I have these many event IDs. Now I'll have to, like in the calendar, there is some information that is shown. Like we don't show all the information, like guest list and all comes later, but at least a few things like event title and maybe start time, end time, like that shows there itself, right? So to optimize that get event, that's here's my point. When we do get events, we don't have to give back all the details of the events, but because of the UI side, we have to show some information. Let's return that with event ID. We'll say return start time, end time, and number of people attending or something like that, right? Like I can see that 9 people are attending, 3 have accepted, 6 have not accepted, like that. This information we can return at that time itself. And then if the user clicks on it, then the user goes like get event details, then corresponding to an event ID we have. So now our read also becomes on 2 parts and becomes faster.
Okay, so you're saying that the important details like the title and stuff like that, you want to just give it immediately
Yes.
in the cache only. you want to
Metadata
store.
essentially.
Got it.
Yes.
So the problem with this would be that what if a person goes and changes their details? We'll have to go for a particular event. All the people invited for that event have to have their caches changed.
Metadata will be updated.
Yes. Which is not
But
that big a deal,
that's-
but
Which is not that big of a deal, considering that read has to be like a lot more frequent than compared to the changes.
changes, yeah. That's possible. That's possible. Let's do it.
You don't seem to agree that much.
No,
You
I'm
have
just,
like a-
I'm just concerned. What if a person makes a change and then 200 people have to be updated? But that's not that big a deal. Also, you can always go over there. You can and you can update the event. You can kick out that entire event and add this new event which you have updated. Updated event, jaake, matlab, for every user ID, which is related to this event ID, you go and make those updates. So let's say you make a change, you add 2 users and you remove 2 users from the guest list. So you have to make 4 changes. You go to the 2 users who have been removed, and from them you remove this event ID in that tree set. And the people who have now had the event added, you'll add the event to the tree set. Okay, that seems actually quite easy. So some of the details also we should keep in the event itself, right?
Right.
Which we want to display to the user immediately. Okay, so some critical info we keep. If they click on an event, then they see all the other info that is possible for that event.
So now when we used to do get events, there is another API that we have, get event info, like that, where we are passing the event ID, and for that particular event we are getting the,
Yeah, that's
which is actually very basic. We should have thought of it in the starting.
right. Yeah, no, I think that's the reason why we didn't think of it also. Like if you click on it, then you get an event
Yeah.
in hand. Okay, this is important. Okay, is there something that we are missing? What about events which are recurring, like hundreds of events? That's not a problem because you have them all replicated in a list. Okay, what happens when you update a recurring event? If you mention that the rest of the events also have to change, then you go and find all the recurring events and you change them.
Sorry, can you?
So for example, let's say you have a daily stand-up and you say that I'm changing the link of the stand-up. So now, let's say you have 500 such events. We are now
500 such events for 500 people. That becomes
500 such events for, let's keep it reasonable, 200 people or 100 people. Actually, in a stand-up,
Okay.
10 people come.
No, I was thinking, say on a company level, every month something is happening. say 500 events are there.
Okay, 500 events, which takes care of 1 year. So this is our special Google Calendar with low capability. But if you have 500 into 20 people in the stand-up, 50 people in the stand-up.
Chalo, theek hai. हाँ.
Let me think big. Let me take it 100 people in the stand-up. You still have 5,000, 50,000 updates. That's a lot of updates.
But let's compare that to read. That is going to happen. If we were designing for 500 million people, the number of reads. Every day we are going to read the events, say 10 times, so everyone opens the calendar. Let's assume. Suppose we keep the cache also, then we still have to update it, right?
When we have an event being updated, why is this problem occurring? Because of recurrence, right? Okay. And we are changing all those events. How about we try to simplify this and we say you can book forever, okay? You have no end time, but anytime you come and change an event, what you're effectively doing, this is all happening in the UI. There's nothing in the backend. There's just one event which says this is the this happens every day. Let's say there's a daily event, 9 p.m. You go to one of the events and you say, hey, I want to make it 10 p.m. The rest of the events, its cron expression will change, but nothing else will happen. The rest of the events will not be created. That's it. It's just cron expression will change. The others will have an end time up till here. Yeah, this is pretty complex. I don't think I'm able to come up with any kind of a sensible, creation method or for recurring events here. Not able to think it through, like A, B, C, and then I say change D. What happens to E, F, G, and this is an infinite thing, right? 50,000 writes, in my opinion, seems mad. Like, it's a lot of writes.
But that is going to happen for a very less number of times. We did for recurrence event for so many number of people.
Why are we multiplying this? This is not a multiplication, right? Just 100 events are being updated. 4 people does not matter to us much, does it?
No, we were thinking of map. We were thinking of map and metadata. That is why we were thinking.
If we don't even map the metadata, then it's just 100 events.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, but in order to make the read very faster, we thought of having the metadata, the critical information.
But are we going to? Okay, that's another interesting question. Maybe we can just store the event IDs.
We can have maybe 2 level get metadata and get event info.
Do a nice little inner join here. Yeah.
Sorry?
Do a nice little inner join over here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, insane. No, I think your metadata idea is much better. But yeah, we might need to update a lot of that. Again, Kirti, we don't really need to make everybody's metadata change. Right? Let's say this is not an event ID. It's event ID and like the important details. So let's have those details here, right? And this is going to be an object in itself. So everyone can share this object, right? These 500 people, each of them can share this one object.
That makes more sense.
Okay, so then you just need 100 updates.
Yes, because that, yes. Yeah, that's a very good point. Because metadata is going to be same corresponding to each event.
It's like a constant, yeah. And if you have to remove, if you have to update it, then you remove it for everybody else. But if you make one...
So corresponding to each event, we can have like metadata, which will be in the map.
Yeah.
And then we'll have, so we don't have to keep it per user. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This was easy. Why didn't we think of this earlier?
The problem with this is if you have multiple people, if you ever make a change to this metadata, you can't, like, it has to go through some place and make the change. You can't. I'm thinking if you have copies of this metadata, right, in 2 different servers, then there will be a issue. Like, this person is seeing some metadata, this person is seeing something else, but that's also okay. Eventually they'll be consistent.
Right.
You can kick out of the cache and you can go and update that, and the other person will get to know. Okay, I think we are kind of ready to jump into the code. All we need to do is we need to look at this object and think about how do we simplify this. A tree set, a map with a key, and a tree set which is sorted on something is going to be difficult to code. So can we have something else? Also, we are talking about a builder, right? A manager class which is going to give things. So like create event is something that our manager should do. I'm just calling it manager. Everyone has generic things, so I'll just call it manager. We'll name it better maybe later. And what other things can it do? It can help you read. So I have an object which is user timeline or user calendar. Yeah. So what this does, user calendar is an object which has a user ID and it has a set of events. So, okay, tree set of events.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, this is like event meta events, like event details, that's it. And each manager has each manager has a cache of user calendar, right? Which is basically a set of user calendar.
We'll have to probably do hashing on
Yeah.
the number of users if there are going to be too many users.
So if you want to do a get, does a set offer a get operation? It offers a exists operation. It doesn't have get, right?
No.
So then we need a map of user calendar to user ID. It seems wasteful. How do I?
What are we supposed to get? What will the API look like?
So the idea is that if you say I, user ID, want to see all events between X and Y, then give me the list of events. So list of events is right here. The person who's calling is here. So we need a user ID mapping. Can we simplify this into a simpler object? Like this is pretty complex.
If we have a map from user ID to events, what is the problem?
If we have that, that's fine. The only problem is it's a big block. So it makes using this object complex, like, and it's also very raw. So whatever you name this, let's say M, so it becomes M dot get user ID passing dot get between this time to this time. So it's a very raw API. That's one thing. Apart from that, it's like it's a complex API. Like you have to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do that. It's not like you give me this calendar, like get calendar with this user ID. You get the calendar. Then you say, okay, in this calendar, get me all events between A to B. You get those events. Should we try doing that? Like, okay, we have a map of user ID to calendars. UID. This is a map. And then we have another map which tells us and calendar gives us a API rather.
For calendar, we have to give a set of date names.
Yeah, we have to
like
say start
date,
time and end time.
Yeah.
And then you
Now
get a list.
corresponding. Yeah, then you get a list. And because we have like that tree set corresponding to each user, we have a tree set basically in sorted way. So we can send this now. What is the issue?
Yeah, this is good. This is good. So this calendar actually has a tree set which allows you to use this API. And you may want to keep a full object for this, or a simple map is also fine. A simple map which has user ID pass in the user ID, now pass in the start and end time, and you're sorted. Okay.
I think we are good.
Yeah.
So guys, this is the discussion we did. We had anticipated that we'll be able to write the code also, but turns out that Google Calendar is much more complex than we had thought. We had underestimated it a bit, I guess. So what we'll be doing is that you guys let us know in the comments about your feedback about the design patterns that you would have used, and we'll take those into consideration. The top 3 comments that we feel have really good feedback, we'll take that into consideration, and we'll try to apply your ideas into our code. We'll also tell in the video that okay, this is the person who suggested this particular design pattern, and we are actually going to write the code according to that. So there will be a separate video where we'll be writing the code of entire Google Calendar. Gaurav, would you like to add?
Entire Google Calendar means entire version of our Google Calendar, like
our version of Google.
the easy one. Yeah, I think we have come up with some good ideas. Also, we have thought of quite a few things, but the reconciliation is something which is interesting. Do let us know in the comments. If the best comment, I mean, we can just pin it. That's one thing, and we can also reply to that with the link of the coding video. So do let us know if you have any ideas. If you have any suggestions or doubts or any feedback, do let us know. Of course, we would love to improve on this design. So thank you so much, and hit the subscribe button to get the notification.
And also, if you want to improve your design, and if you want more sessions like this for mock interviews, if you want to have discussions like this, you can head to mock.interviewready.io, and you can actually have sessions like these, and you can also have mock interviews for design, which will be really, really helpful.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, guys, see you then. Take care. Thanks, Kirti, for making this possible.
Thank you so much for coming. This was so much fun.